Okay, so upon thinking about this, I think I'm going to just simply display all of the variables and just mimic what I'm doing right now. And then as we use them, I will go back and explain to you in more detail, how we are going to be using these various variables. Okay, so first of all, let me go to the list over here. And after this, I'm going to create a constant, int, and max num roads. And we'll set that to 4. So what this constant represents is the maximum number of roads that we are going to draw. Right now it looks like this is 2 roads, right? 2 roads. And so you saw before in the creation of our road strips, so we have the single road, we have the 2 road, 3 road, and then we also have a 4 road option. So that's what I'm doing over here in the form of a constant, because I don't want to use hard coding. I would rather use a constant to define what is the maximum number of roads. And it may very well be that I decide to make that 3 or 2. Right? So I could change that here, and by changing it here, it'll have a massive, overwhelming, or overriding effect on the entire program based on that one constant value. Let me go ahead and create another constant called max num of grass. Right? So what is the maximum number of grass strips? And in my notes, I have 2. Maybe I was experimenting with that. Maybe I want that to be 1, or maybe I want that to be anything less than. I'm going to stick with my notes. But again, the idea is you can determine what are the maximum number of grass strips that you want to have displayed. All right. And then let's see here. How about int index of the current strip. And, I already have that. I think that's why it's giving me a message over here. Already contains a definition. Okay, so I don't need that one. Sorry about that. Index of current strip. Did I define that up here? Yep, I sure did. So why don't I keep all these guys over here? I'm going to cut them and paste them over here. Cool. All right, and what I want to do is I also want to keep track based on what I have back over here in Unity and the pool of strips prefabs array list that I have. I really should keep track of, okay, so it looks like the road begins over here at index 3 and it ends over here at index 6. The grass strips that are occupied with items such as rocks or trees, that begins over here at index 7. The grass strips that are bare by themselves, that begins over here at element 0, and that goes all the way to element 2. So from index 0 to index 2. I want to keep track of these because as I say pick one of these randomly, well, if it's going to pick a grass strip bare randomly, it's one of these 3. If it's going to pick a grass strip occupied, it's one of these 6. Okay. So that's the idea behind that is, just keeping track of these various indices. And, probably now that I think about that, I mean, I'm not going to go against my notes because, I want to be consistent throughout. But now that I think about this, what I probably should have done is kept all the grass strips together and then kept all the road strips on the bottom. But ultimately, it doesn't matter as long as I'm just keeping track of where everything is. But I think a more elegant approach really should have been grass strips first and then road strips. That way I could have just said, select anything from index 0 to 9, say, for example, or 8. And then, the 9, 10, 11, 12 would have been the road strips. It's probably a more elegant approach. But, I'm trying to be authentic, trying to be real here. When I first did this is how I started it off. So I'll try to be consistent here. All right. So I'm going to create index end of bare strips. And I set that to 2. Why do I set that to 2? You'll notice that for the grass strips that are bare, that's index 0, index 1, index 2. So that's what's meant by that. If I want to know whatever the end of the bare strips are, then in this case, it's going to be index 2. If I decide to go back and create more grass strips, that I had one with daisies, what if I have one with little tiny roses or one with any other type of flower, say for example, and I create more of these, then I could just simply change that variable here, and it'll have a lasting effect on the entire program. Okay, let's create an index of the top road. So what is the index of the top road? Well, let's see here. It looks like it's element 3. It starts from 0, so that's index 3. And what is the index of the middle road? So the index of the middle road right here is index 4. What is the index of, oops, sorry, no spaces, the index of the bottom road? And that's going to be 5, because as you can see over here, that's set to 5. What is the index of the single road? And that's going to be 6, because you can see over here, I've placed that as the 6th element. Now, notice over here that all of the grass strips that contain something, not above and beyond grass, such as rocks and trees, that begins over here at index 7. So over here, we'll say int index of grass occupied start. We'll set that to 7. By the way, you'll notice that whenever I create variables, I try to pick like the overwhelming keyword that applies to whatever it is that I'm trying to do, and then I can kind of drill down, like bigger umbrella, then look underneath that to get the smaller umbrellas, and then the smaller sub-umbrellas under those. And so that way in the future, if I type in the word index, I'm going to get a list of all these things that I've just created. And so then it makes my life easier, because I can say, okay, I know that I want the index, but what did I call it? Did I call it index current strip? Did I call it index top of road, or index of middle road? So when I type in index in the future, you will see a list of all of these items. And so that's my strategy whenever I program. I try to put like big keywords so that in the future I think, okay, if I'm looking for this particular item, what umbrella does that fall under? Oh, in this case, it falls under the index umbrella. In this other case, it falls under the counter umbrella. And in this other case, it falls under the strips umbrella, so forth and so on. That's how I try to approach programming to make my life easier in the future. Okay. Now, eventually, we are going to want this thing, if it's hit by a car or a truck, a vehicle, we're going to want this thing to play a type of death animation, because in the original Crossy road, it looks like it's just flattened. So I'm going to create a switch or a flag, a Boolean flag, is playing death animation. And of course, since we're beginning the game, we'll set that to false. But while it's going through this process, then we don't want to be, we can't move the chicken anymore. So if we click on the mouse, or if we press the keys on the keyboard, it should no longer be able to move as long as you are playing the death animation, or as long as you're dead. So that's why I'm creating this. And in the future, we'll take a look at that to see how this works out. Okay. All right. So let's see here. I also created a static int index of previous grass strip. Now, the only reason why I did this is because maybe in the game I want to alternate between grass strips. So if I said, okay, I picked this grass strip, I want this one next time. Or I picked number 2, I want either 1 or 3. Or I picked one of these with the rock, I want something else. I don't want repetition. So I want to keep track of what the previous grass strip is, so that I know I can alternate between them, right? So that you don't have to do that. That's just one of the options that you have, right? All right, now we already have that other static item. So I think what I'm going to do is, where is it? There it is. Just so I can keep things together. I'm going to cut this and paste it right here. So that was the is a grass strip to be displayed. If it's not to be displayed, then a road strip is to be displayed. So I also, I'm going to create another static variable of type Boolean. Was a road previously displayed? So it's another flag that's from the perspective or an emphasis from the road, right? So was a road previously displayed? So then we want to display a grass strip. You'll see how I use this in the future. Let's create another static variable of type integer. The num of roads strips, I should have said road strip, to display. Okay, so how many, it could very well be that when we decide, okay, so we're on a grass strip, over here, we're on a grass strip, so we want to start drawing a road, so give me a random number. Do you want to draw a single road? 1. A road that's a 2-way like this, a 3-way, or a 4-way. So I have 4 options, right? So give me a random number from 0 to 4. And then that will determine how many road strips I need to draw. And so that's what I'm doing here. I'm just establishing like a counter that I can use to determine how many road strips to display. So another static int, num of grass strips to display. Now, if I'm just drawing one grass strip, then no big deal. But if I am going to be drawing more than one, again, that's you, the programmer, will determine, do I want a couple of grass strips? Do I just want to go road, grass, or do I want road, maybe grass, road, so forth and so on. So then you'll need a counter to determine how many of those that you want, to display.